What's up, everybody? Back at you with another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Got a guest on today. Seen some things, been through some things straight out of Texas. We might get into that Texas state prison system. We might get into the federal prison system. We might visit USP Beaumont today. Lawrence, tell the people who you are, where you're from, and we'll get into your story.
What's up, man? So my name's Lawrence. From Texas. Started out in the system, just being a young knucklehead, basically. Yeah. Nothing super serious. I was doing minor car, joyriding stuff as a kid, and we would go into houses and just basic dumb stuff. And then I ended up getting probation, and then I just kind of just did whatever on probation, kind of just kept doing the same thing. And then I ended up, eventually the system has enough. They gave me a few chances, but they eventually went to court, and, they gave me 5 years in TDC. And so I went and I did that pretty much day for day in state prison. And then I got out from there, and then I was doing good. I was working in the oil field down here in South Texas. That's kind of a big thing down here. Well, it used to be. It still is a little bit, but not as much. But back then it was booming. I mean, you could go, and just make a ton of money and not know anything as long as you're willing to work. So that's kind of what I did. And then I've always had a business mindset. So I ended up, opening up my own business in the oil field. I had an oil field service company where we go clean the oil rigs and stuff. So I was doing really good. Had a baby on the way. Everything was good. And I was 31 at this time. And I ended up getting a Fed charge. And so it initially started off as a state charge because it was possession of a firearm. But it's kind of conflicting because in Texas, I don't know what the law says specifically, so don't quote me here, but typically after 10 years of being convicted of a felony, there's stipulations on how you can own a gun. You can in some way, I don't know the exact law because I don't ever want to own a gun, so it doesn't matter to me, but there's ways, right? So anyways, I was at a tire shop one day, and there was, I was just buying tires, and there was a guy there. It's a small town. Everybody knows everybody down here, a little oil field community. And guy was showing the owner of the shop a gun. I happened to be standing right there when he's showing it. The owner, because he knows me, he passes it over to me. Hey, check that out. Me, I'm not thinking nothing about it. I didn't think, oh my God, I have a felony. I better not touch this. It didn't even cross my mind. But he handed it to me. I grabbed it, and just so happened a cop was turning the corner right there. He pulls up, and initially it would have just been, hey, what are you guys doing with a gun? And he would have said, okay, cool, went on about his way. But since it's a small town and everyone knows everybody, I guess maybe he knew I had a background. I don't know, but he said, hey, he ran my ID, whatever, and then he came back and he locked me up for felon in possession of a firearm. So I was fighting that for a while, about a year, and went through probably $20,000 or $30,000 in attorney fees because I didn't want to lose everything, and I know how the system works, and I was just like, man, I got to get this under wraps and get it taken care of. And so anyways, I had it almost pretty much where they were just going to give me probation, and they, and it was going to be done, and I wasn't going to lose my business. I had a baby being born, and and then all of a sudden I went to court one day, and the ATF showed up and scooped me up, and I never saw daylight again. That was it.
Talk a little bit about your life growing up in Texas, right? What was your life like growing up there?
I had a good life, man. My mom, she worked for the government ever since I was a baby. And my dad wasn't around. I was adopted whenever I was a kid. And so my mom adopted me. And I grew up in a upper middle class, I guess you'd say. And, went to public schools. And, I was taught to always do the right thing, but I've always been the type to find an easier way or a faster way. And that's just, I still battle that today. I'm successful today after federal prison, but I still have to remind myself, like, do it the right way. Just because my mindset's like, oh, you could do it like this. So much easier. But honestly, with the risk involved, it's not, so. but I grew up good, man. We went to family vacations. We went to Vegas every year, Grand Canyon, all kinds of stuff, and everything was good. I just chose to do stupid shit.
When you catch that Texas case, does your mom kind of like, damn, man, this ain't the way we raised you? Does she pull back a little bit?
No, she never did. So my mom, she was always like right there. Like she's disappointed, obviously. And she's like, what are you doing? And I just like, I don't know, like, I don't know, and I was just doing dumb stuff. So it really, before I even got locked up, when I was young, I stole my grandma's car, like at 12 or 13 years old. I ran away from home. I took her car and it was just crazy. And because my mom, I mean, my mom's good. I love her to death, but like she was a very firm person and she'd pretty much kick your ass. You know what I mean? And so, but that was like a turning point right there, because after I did that, like when she came and picked me up, the police found me parked in a car wash with my foot on the brake. So they saw the brake lights and they came in, and, they were looking for that car and they found me. I was scared to death. So when my mom picks me up, I was just waiting on that backhand to come across there. And my mom didn't say a word. We drove home. She never mentioned it. And after that, it seems like she changed a little bit. And so she was still like, what are you doing type stuff whenever I would do dumb shit. But for the most part, she wasn't surprised anymore because I was skipping school. I didn't want to go to school. Like I was going all out, man.
Talk about that Texas prison system. Kind of dangerous over there if you end up in the wrong place, right?
Man, I guess left up to opinion, I guess, and how you are as a person. Really, to me, it wasn't dangerous. To me, it was pretty simple. It sucks because you don't have air conditioning, and you have more of a chance of dying of heat stroke than you do of dying of somebody hurting you, unless you're just a bad person and you have messed up charges and stuff like that. If you know how to operate, I mean, to me, I feel like you'll be good. But I mean, yeah, there's fights and there's stupid stuff happening all the time, but you just adapt and get into it, and you just become part of the system at that moment.
White politics. Are there any white politics over there? I know they got some ABTs down there, right?
Yeah, you're thinking federal politics and state politics there. They really don't exist. Like people are hanging out with other races. They're sharing coffee. They're doing this. That was back when I went. I went, in the early 2000s, and it was just free for all. Really, do whatever you want to. The guards are a lot more corrupt there than they are in the federal system. All the guards are usually bringing in tobacco and phones, and I mean, it's just really wide open in that aspect. But as far as violence and stuff, I never saw anybody get stabbed there. I never saw anybody, I saw fights. People, the worst I've seen was someone put a lock on a belt or a sock or whatever. And, that was the worst, but nothing like the feds for sure.
So you graduate, you get out of state prison, you graduate, you end up in federal prison for this stolen gun. How much time were you sentenced to? You said what, 7 years?
Yeah, I got 84 months. It wasn't stolen, by the way. It was just possession of a firearm. The gun was legit. But yeah, I got 84 months. So I get locked up in the feds. The ATF picks me up at the courthouse, and I'm thinking, okay, cool. I'm going to go over here and get a bond, and I need to bond out and get out of here so I don't lose my business, and at that time, my fiance, she didn't work and the baby's on the way. I was the only provider, and I was like, I need to get out. So I get the federal arraignment. They arraign me, tell me my charges. And I was like, okay, how do I bond out? And they're like, you don't bond out, and so, yeah, I didn't get a bond. I stayed there and I never saw daylight again. And they were offering me like 110 months or something like that. And that charge, keep in mind, that charge carries 2 to 10. So 10 years being 120 months, they were offering me as a plea bargain to sign for 110. And so, I wasn't going to do it, considering the fact that, I hadn't been in trouble in almost 15 years, and I'm 31. The last time I've been in trouble when I was like 17 or 18. And so they wanted me to sign for 110, and then I had guys in the holdover with me that were going to court for child pornography and stuff, and they were getting probation. And I'm like, why me? So that's kind of how it played out. And then, so I just ended up taking it to jury trial and rolled the dice. And Yeah. So
You went
lost
to
that.
trial and you went to trial and lost and got less time.
Yeah, actually I did, because they ended up after I went to trial, they actually calculated my PSI. When they did that, they saw that, oh, well, he falls right here, because in the Fed system you have a guideline system where you fall. It's not like, hey, you're a good guy, we're going to give you this. It's we don't care who you are. We look at your background and this is where you're at in the graph, right? So that's what they did. But before, I don't think they did that. I think before they just did a broad review of who I was and where I've been. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're here. But when the PSI, they dig into it a lot deeper. And I think when they did that, they saw that, oh, well, you're in, I think it was 76 to 84. Don't quote me, but I know the max was 84 and it was 76 to 84. And so that's what I ended up getting. I went in front of the judge. I was very lucky because the judge could have gave me a 2-point enhancement for obstruction of justice, because I testified at my trial. And basically, if you lose, that means your testify was false, basically, So they could have actually charged me with obstruction of justice and some other enhancements they could have done. They didn't do it. I don't know why, because they really wanted me for some reason, but they didn't do it. I got lucky.
So let's talk about this. How old were you when you end up going to federal prison? You get sentenced. How old are you?
I was 31.
31 years old. You're going to federal prison. You got a little, you kind of got a skid bid. I mean, any time in prison sucks. What's the first prison you go to?
The first one I went to after leaving the transfer center, I went to El Reno in Oklahoma. FCI El Reno. It's a medium.
So what was El Reno like when you get there? I mean, I know they had, it wasn't a punk ass spot.
Oh, El Reno. I don't know what you heard, but when I was there, 60, I would say 60 or 70% of it was people were either, rats or chomos. So, and, it just keep in mind that my neighbor was the mayor of Detroit. And then you had guys there. There were some big names there. I mean, Gene Gotti's been there. A bunch of people have been there. But Kwame Kilpatrick, he's a big, tall Detroit mayor.
I know
He
who
was
he is.
okay. Yeah, so he was my neighbor there. And then I had just people that, and just keep in mind that guy used to be the mayor, so he works with the cops. He's actually the boss for the chief of police, right? So, and he walked. Everything was fine. I mean, and Obama showed up there, and they handpicked El Reno because El Reno is kind of like a college campus, man. There's I think I saw in the year or two that I was there, I might have saw like one fight the whole time I was there. And I didn't even really know what deuces were whenever I was there, because they never happened, so.
They had some white gangs over there though, right? ABTs?
They did, but those are they had some ABTs there, but those are the ones that really couldn't walk anywhere else. They acted tough there. But once I left there, I find out when I go to yards that are actually hard yards, I find out that those guys are pretty much, they can't go anywhere else, And honestly, there's been places that I've heard that even if you come from El Reno, they're kind of running you off the yard, So I got lucky that, I didn't get run off the yard just for being at that yard and housing with people like that, So
let's talk about El Reno. We'll talk about housing with people like that. You end up leaving El Reno. Why do you leave El Reno?
I put in for a voluntary transfer just because I didn't like it there. I didn't like they're very strict. I mean, you can't have a towel hanging up. I mean, they're just really petty, and it's just nothing going on. I mean, it just lame to me. Time was going really slow, and just get tired of being around people like that. So yeah, I've just put in for a transfer, and they let you pick, I think it was 3 spots they let you pick. And so I picked Yazoo as a spot, which is in Mississippi. And I don't remember the other. Oh, I think I picked Talladega as well. I wanted to go in that region somewhere right there. Not too far from Texas, but still in the South. And so, yeah.
What's Yazoo like?
Yazoo was cool. I like Yazoo. Yazoo had a lot of guys from New York, a lot of East Coast guys, a lot of Puerto Rican guys. The Puerto Ricans are super cool to hang out with. At El Reno, I hadn't, because you got to think in federal prison, you're I'm used to just being around, white guys from Texas or just Texas people in general, despite race. And I get to Yazoo, and it's not like El Reno. El Reno was not as diversified. So I get to Yazoo, and there's people from California. There's people from, like I said, East Coast, and there's Puerto Ricans and all kinds of stuff. So Yazoo was cool. It was really wide open. When I say wide open, I'm talking about the guards don't really just care about much as long as you're not killing each other. So I mean, you can smoke cigarettes there. They're walking through on count, and you're smoking a cigarette in your cell. Just hold it down when they walk by, and they don't care. You know, that's what I mean when I say wide open. Cell phones everywhere, cigarettes everywhere. You know, it was cool because it wasn't as like scrutinized as El Reno. You know, but it can also be dangerous.
A lot of drugs there too, right?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of drugs. I kind of got into. I've never been a user, but when I did go there, I got into hustling. You know, just because I've always had a business mindset. So I got into buying and selling stuff, whether it be shoes or watches or whatever. I'm buying and selling something. I've always been a wheeling dealer, and so that's kind of what I did. And I bought and sold the drugs too. You know, it's because it was so easy. The guards, they're not trying to search you and look for it. El Reno, I wouldn't even think about it. It was there, but you know, at El Reno, if you even touch it, someone might tell on you, you know, and then all of a sudden your unit manager's at your door like, hey, they told me you had this, you know. So
How's it coming in Yazoo? A lot of staff members bringing it in?
oh yeah, staff, and then of course they're utilized. They have cell phones, so they had drones coming over. The Puerto Ricans, man, they had guys with four-wheelers driving up to the prison and throwing stuff over the fence. I mean, they had it going on. They were just doing whatever they wanted to do. So yeah.
Some people getting rich over there?
Oh yeah, yeah. You could definitely get rich. You could definitely get rich. I stacked up quite a bit of money.
What was the most prevalent drug over there? I mean, what were people really using? Deuce, Suboxone? What was the main drug?
It was just deuce and Suboxone, man. At that time, I think the K2 was getting pretty rampant, and it was becoming the stuff where it wasn't the K2 like the spice stuff where you smoke it and it makes you feel like you smoked a joint. Now they're getting into the stuff where it's the zombie, where they're smoking it and they're just kind of leaned out. I mean, they're zombie apocalypse walking around there. It's crazy.
See anybody do any crazy shit on Deuce? Start screaming, yelling?
Oh yeah, man. There, I saw a guy who was up on the up on the second tier, and he smoked it. He just busted out of the room, came running out, screaming. He thought he was on fire, and he ran downstairs, ran to the cop, and tackled the cop. And I mean, he did all kinds of crazy shit. He ended up biting. I don't know if he bit her finger off, but I know he bit her finger. I don't know if it came off or what, but it was kind of crazy.
Definitely a crazy lifestyle in there now that Deuce has been introduced into the federal prison system, right?
Yeah, and it's addictive, man. I've seen people like go from being just a regular guy like me or you, go from just, I mean, all the way down to willing to like scrub your toilet with a toothbrush, anything for a hit, like crazy stuff, man. Selling everything they own. And those are the guys who end up getting stabbed and ran off yards and stuff because they do stupid shit. And they end up pulling moves and owing people money and stuff like that. And they just bounce yard to yard like that just to get high, risking their life every single yard they go to.
For you to be at Yazoo, right? Was it a culture shock for you to come from El Reno and to come there and see this whole new world and people screaming, fighting, violence?
Yeah, it was, but I kind of embraced it because I was ready for a change. So it was exciting to me. I was like, heck yeah, here I am, And they showed me an iPhone and a Samsung Galaxy, and I was like, oh yeah, I can do my time like this. This is a lot better. So yeah, I can
What are
bounce
phones
off.
going for? How much was a phone at Yazoo at that time?
At that time, they were like $1,500. You can get a phone for 1,500. If you really, really knew somebody, you can get one for like $1,000. Full touchscreen Galaxy Note, all that stuff. So
I know a lot of people that are over there, and you know what? I do a lot of work for people, but you know what? I think Yazoo's got the biggest scumbag staff, especially their law department. They're all scumbags over there. But
yeah,
but anyway, you're in Yazoo. How do you end up getting moved from Yazoo? Because you go to a USP eventually, right?
yeah, I did. So like I said, the drug game and all that stuff can make it dangerous, right? So I've always been well liked. I'm just a regular guy. Everybody's always surprised when I tell them my story because they're like, "What are you doing here? Like you touched a gun for 5 seconds and you're here." I was like, "Yeah, man." He said, and I always show my paperwork and stuff, and I was like, "Look, that's it. Like I didn't do nothing else. That's it." And so amongst doing all the, transactions and stuff, man, I end up getting caught with a phone, and I go to the shoe. And at that time, just to give you an idea of how bad it was over there, um, they were letting people out getting caught with phones. Like if on your second or third phone, then they would ship you. But just getting caught with, typically in another spot, you get caught with a phone, you're shipped guaranteed, never coming back out. And if you do come back out, it's kind of sketchy, right? And so at that time, I wasn't the only one. I got caught with a phone, they let me back out. It was other people doing the same thing. And so I came back out. Well, when I came back out, there was a guy that owed me probably almost $1,000, and he started talking, saying, "Oh, it looks real funny." He was insinuating basically that I told to get out of the shoe, right? And so obviously I couldn't let that go. Now looking back, maybe I should have, I don't know, but I just wouldn't have felt right with myself letting it go because I know who I am. And he was just walking around, and he lived like 2 doors away from me, and everybody's acting funny towards me. Now I have my solid dudes that I mess with every day that they were still coming up. "What's up, man?" And everything was cool. But they're like, "Man, you know what Tommy's saying?" I was like, "Yeah, I know, man." And I was like, "Man, you know what? I'm going to take care of it." So if I didn't do that and you're saying that, then I mean the only other option is to show you that I didn't do it. And so everybody went to chow. The officer was outside the unit because during chow they stand outside the unit. So I didn't go to chow. I stayed back. He comes back in from the chow hall. He walks up the stairs. I walk up to him. He looks at me, and I just sucker punched him, popped him. And I broke his jaw when I hit him. I didn't think that was going to happen. I heard it snap, and he knocked out because anytime you get a hit like that on that jaw, you're going to sleep. So he knocked out. He's snoring on the floor. I didn't kick him or anything. I waited for him to get up. Everybody at that time, everybody's against the walls. They're like, "Oh, shit." Everybody's against the walls looking, and I'm telling them, like, "I'm going to let him get up, And so he eventually wakes up. He's like, "Man, what happened?" And everybody's like, "Man, Solo knocks you out, man." He's like, "Man, that motherfucker." And he comes over there, and we start fighting, and I mess him up again. Well, then at this point, we've been fighting probably 5 minutes or so, and that's already a long time to be fighting, right? And so he goes to his room, I go to my room. Well, the next thing I know, this dude opens up my door, and he's got a lock on a belt. And he's coming in there. And so he cracked me with it. I got scars all over. I got a big scar right here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but he cracked me with it. So I start fighting him. I get him out of my cell, and then I had him on the ground. He's kind of messed up. So now I run in my room, and my cellmate at the time, he chunked it. He already had it ready for me. He gave it to me. So now we're fighting with locks on a belt, and so this is going on. And now we're on the ground again. I'm on top of him. And what he's doing is he's got this lock on the belt, and it's really short. I didn't even feel it at the time, but he's on the ground like this, and he's hit me in the back of the head with that lock. I didn't feel it. I felt something, but it didn't hurt. Little did I know he was splitting me open every single time, and there was blood everywhere from my eye from here, and his whole side of his face is like this big. And now it's been about 30 minutes. The cop still has not came back in the unit. When they finally did, man, obviously they came up there and pepper sprayed everybody. And
let me stop you for a minute, because some people are going to be thinking 30 minutes. I've seen dudes fighting. It gets broke up. They take a break. They fight again. It's like different rounds. It's not like continuous 30 minutes, right? I mean, you went in the cell, you got the lock.
Yeah.
You might take a breather. Someone might be like, "All right, man, that's enough." And then you guys are clashing again, because people are gonna be like, "Man, they weren't fighting for no 30 minutes." But I've seen people just keep going until the police come.
Yeah. And that's what it was. Now, we had like 2 breaks during that time. So it was very long. I was gassed to the point to where I couldn't even hardly lift my arms up anymore. So just to give you an idea, like, it is a long time. And I was hoping the cops would come in, because I was like, man, if this dude catches his second win before I do, like, I'm screwed, because he really wants to hurt me because of what I did to him, But I only did what I had to do. I can't let you walk around and say that. I still have time to do in the system. You're going to ruin my whole time by doing that, and I'm not going to let you do that. So I'm not a violent guy, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
So the police come in, they pepper spray you, you go to the hole. Do you get transferred now?
Yeah. So now I'm going to the USP. I go to the hole now with the fight shot and all that. Now I got the disciplinary action for the phone. Then I fight as soon as I get out of the shoe. And so yeah. So now I'm going, and they tell me I'm going to USP Pollock in Louisiana. So they told me that. I was kind of devastated because they told me that before I even got shipped from Yazoo. They told me where I was going. I was like, man, because
Does it
I've
get
heard about
real at
that.
that point when they're like, "Yo, you're going to Pollock"? Are you a little bit scared inside?
Oh yeah, definitely. I couldn't even hardly sleep, man. I don't care what anybody says. Going to a pen for the first time, I don't care who you are. It's nerve wracking. You know what I mean? It's definitely nerve wracking. So I don't care who you are. It's scary. So they
You end up going to Pollock. What's it like? Because I've been there, right? I want to
mhm.
know what it's like when you get into that R&D and there's 30 people on the bus with you. Are people checking in? Are people scared in R&D?
Oh, for sure. Even the officer had told us in R&D. He's like, you see this big line of people right here? He said about 5 of you guys will be here after tomorrow, you know? And I was like, oh man, I wonder why. Like, I don't know why. I'm like, well, I'm solid. I didn't tell them nobody. My case is good. Is there something else I need to be worried about? Like, are they just killing people here for no reason? Or like, what's going on? And no one's telling you nothing. You just figure it out, right?
People could get killed for no reason there, right? Like the kid Bubba Sparks, not the rapper. Dude said, you know what? I'm going to kill the first white dude that walks in. And he did. He killed Bubba Sparks. And then his cellie went back and killed that dude. And I put that video up on the channel before. But you could die in there for no reason, right?
For sure, man. And then, going with the prison politics, I've seen people get stabbed and beat to death and all kinds of stuff over something that wasn't even true. It was just a rumor, and somebody's like, "Well, I think this happened," and then before you know it, it got blown out of proportion. And this good, solid dude that's a good guy, they're over here beating his head in. You know what I mean? So yeah, that could happen to anybody. Look what happened to me at Yazoo. I didn't tell on anybody. I went to the shoe. I didn't do anything wrong. I got locked up and went to the shoe, and this guy over here was beginning to spin that web, right? And so that you get people like that will get people killed. That's why it's very important that when that happens, although you might not want to do it, I didn't want to do that. I had to, because when he spins that web, if it gets big enough and it grabs you, you could die. So it's much easier for me to fight this guy now than to let him spin that web. And then what if I go to the pin and he spun that web and that web followed me over here, right? Then what happens? Then you die.
When he
So
was hitting you with the lock and you did realize that there was blood everywhere, did you start to panic a little bit? Like, holy shit.
not really, man. I was just focusing on don't let this guy get on top of me. Don't, just focusing on breathing, because I couldn't hardly breathe anymore. I was I was like, man, breathe and do this, do that, So I was just focusing on not letting him get up. And I was just in my mind, I was like, damn, where the CO? Like, where's it at? And they finally came though.
So Pollock, you're there, and we talked about this cop saying there's only going to be 5 people left. Let's say you went on a bus of 30. How many people actually went to the yard? It was probably a little more than 5, right?
Yeah. I would say about maybe 5 people stayed back. And I think what he was more or less saying was like, whoever goes out there, out of the, let's say there's 30, 5 people check in, don't even go out. 25 actually go out. Out of that 25, 5 to 8 people will actually stay. The rest of them will come back from the yard at some point in time, right?
Yeah, and I agree with that. Probably most of them didn't make it 30 days. But
Right.
anyway, you're in Pollock now, man. What's it like your first day? You're walking in the unit, still nervous, a little bit scared. White dudes press you. What's happening?
Actually, I got lucky, man. I walked in. I don't remember the guy's name, but a white guy walked up. Obviously, when a white guy comes in, the white guys are going to approach you. Hey, bro, where you from? All that. Hey, I'm from Texas. Oh, yeah, your homeboys are over there. I was like, all right, cool. I walked over there, and there was a guy from El Reno that I had known. I don't remember his name, but he knew me more than I knew him, because he called my name out. Hey, bro. And I didn't even remember his name. I just like, oh, hey, what's up? And I didn't want to let him know that I didn't even recognize him, but he recognized me from El Reno. So they welcomed me with open arms. So I walked in, they gave me like, hey, you need shoes? Like, what do you need? Because I guess they already know you're coming. They know if you're solid or not. And so they were like, man, anything you need. We needed a good Texas dude here. I'm so glad you're here. It was open arms. I was still skeptical. And honestly, I felt like for some reason, like the first week I was there, I was watching my back. And one day that Matt, one of the Texas guys, he's like, "Hey, bro, go to the yard," and he ran outside. I'm like, man, that was strange. So I'm being very, very like skeptical on everything because I don't know what to expect, right? And I'm like, man, these dudes are gonna hit me or like, what's going on? Like, so I went out there and they're all lined up, and I swear to God, like I just thought someone was gonna walk up to me at any moment and do it, but nothing happened and everything was good. So, but that was how I felt, like walking around. So it was definitely intimidating for sure.
How much time did you spend in Pollock?
Let's see. I think I was there about a year.
Were there ever days when you were comfortable? Did you finally get comfortable? Or were you always on edge, always watching, always wondering?
No, after about a month or so, I did get comfortable. After that, I felt like, okay, as long as I stay in my lane, I don't have to worry about nothing happening to me. And then as long as there's no big, race riot or something like that, then I'm good. I don't have to worry about it because you're good to go. And then I also started seeing guys that were knuckleheads and just straight up probably shouldn't be there. I was like, man, if that guy can make it, I know I'm good. So at that, when I started seeing guys like that, they're doing K2, they're getting high. But as long as they're paying their bills, they're there, and I was like, man, yeah. So if those guys can make it, I'm good. So
Ever have to get a knife over there?
no, actually I didn't, man. They offered them to me, and I would just be like, no, I'm good. I already got one, because I at that, by the time I got to Pollock, I had like a little over a year left. I had like 2 years left. So, I mean, man, I wasn't trying to do all that. Like, I know you might need it, but I mean, I was like, man, if that time comes, I'll figure it out, but I'm not walking around with that shit, man. I don't have time for it.
You ever personally see something at Pollock that affected you mentally, emotionally, anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I saw, we were coming back from commissary one time. I think he was from DC, a little black guy. He's pretty cool. He's always walking around, just kind of quiet dude from DC. And there was another older guy. I think they were trying to take the cell from him, man. It was whatever it was. It wasn't legit. The dude wasn't a bad dude. And they came back from commissary. I was putting my stuff up and all. I just heard a commotion up there on the second row. And I saw that dude, the little short guy telling the older guy to get out of the cell, get out of the cell. And the dude's like, nah, man. He was being nice about it. Honestly, he's like, come on, man. He's like, nah, get out of the cell. And then, they were going back and forth. And finally, he just started stabbing the dude. I mean, he had the dude up against the rail because if you're upstairs, there's rails, right? Well, the guy was hanging off of the rail trying to hide his head, is what he was doing. He was hiding his head, and the dude was just reaching around, stabbing him, stabbing him. And we're down here. I'm looking up. I'm like, damn, dude. And he's just stabbing him. And you could just hear it and just the noise and the guy going, like that every time. Like, I'll never forget that, the sound of it, the sound the knife was making when it was going in him. And then like the dude's dripping blood. So there's like a blood raining down on one row. And at this time it's quiet. Like if you looked in the dorm, you wouldn't even realize anything's going on because nobody's staring. Everybody, you got people watching TV, like there's nothing going on. No one's like, it's not like state prison, like they're gonna give it away because everybody's gonna be just looking up there, you know what I mean? And no one was looking. So the cop is walking around on one row underneath them. And he doesn't even realize it's happening until he walks and the blood drips down on him and he looks up. I'll never forget it. And he looks up and he's like, oh my God, he panicked. And then, of course, he hit the deuces. And then that guy takes off running. Why? And he ran in another cell and flushed the knife. Why? I don't know. He's on camera stabbing the guy. So at that point, why even flush it? But yeah.
Young guy stabbing the old guy. No respect for older people.
No, just trying to take his sale, bro. You know what I mean? I want your sale. That's what it came down to. The dude was a piece of shit, but I've seen it, stuff like that all the time. Just like with the thing that happened with me at Yazoo. I didn't touch on that earlier, but the guy owed me $1,000. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden he's spinning this web of stories. And that's how it happens. And that can be dangerous when you let someone owe you that amount of money. They get desperate, and now all of a sudden they're going to figure out a way to get rid of you, right? So at Pollock, I didn't sell anything. I didn't do any of that. It was very minimal. I wasn't going to – I'm not trying it, bro, because I've seen them knock people off just because they're doing good and they're not sharing with the buddies,
I mean, there's dudes in there that are doing good, and people applaud on you because they want what you got. You're friends today and enemies tomorrow, right?
Yeah. So I already knew the game, and I was like, yeah, here they're playing for keeps, and I'm not gonna try it here. So I just kick back, make a little wine, drink a little wine, and that was it. I played cards, and that was it. Did a little gambling, but cash on the spot. That's it. And I took that very slow as well. So I was very cautious in every step I made.
You end up going home from Pollock or no?
No. So Pollock. So there's an incident that happens with the ABT, which is the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. They're on the yard. Something happened in another dorm with a ABT cat named Snap. He actually came on the bus with me, the Snap guy. So he came on the bus with me. So I talked to him. I've seen him on the yard every day. I knew he was a knucklehead, and he's a drug user. Like, he's one of those guys. He's rough, scraggly dude, and prison he's older. He's probably in his early 50s. He's been doing this a long time, and he's still with all the bullshit. He hadn't hit that point like some older guys where they're just chill. They just want to go home. He wasn't doing that. So he ends up pressing a Texas dude in another unit, and he ends up stabbing him. He poked him a few times. And that's a no-no because he was a solid Texas dude. He didn't do anything wrong. They had a disagreement, but you can't stab the guy, So next morning at breakfast, I don't go to breakfast. So I found out after everybody came back from breakfast. And they were saying, yeah, Snap stabbed our homeboy, whatever. I was like, oh, great. But I just figured they would figure it out like every other thing. There's stuff happen every day, like so-and-so's not paying his bills. What are we going to do? And I was like, whatever. And they usually figure it out and everything's cool. And well, this time they didn't figure it out. So we all go out it was mandatory that we go out to the rec yard on the first rec move. And that was going to be around 8, 9 o'clock. And they didn't do an early morning, like a first rec move or whatever. So we all go out there. And when I say all, not every Texas dude that lived there went out there. Only a select few did. The reason why others didn't go, I don't have a clue. Maybe they couldn't. Some people genuinely couldn't get out there. They were working. They didn't know, but the available people that could go, we went. And there was probably about 8 of us, maybe 8 to 10, somewhere around there. And the ABT guys went out there. I think there was 5 or 6 of them. And so the goal in doing that was we were going to talk and say, hey, what are we going to do, about your guy doing this to our guy? You guys need to discipline him or do something, because that's not allowed. If we allowed that, then this should just be the Wild Wild West and everybody will be touchable. Because, as there's rules in there of stuff you can and can't do, typically. And so they basically just said that they weren't going to do anything to him, that our guy was a piece of shit, running up bills and stuff. And we just kind of reiterated the point, like, okay, if he's running up a bill, then you need to let us know and let us take care of it, right? We'll take care of him. But you don't just get to do that, right? And, as much as I didn't want it to happen, I mean, I was kind of impressed that they were standing up and saying, no, we're not going to let it go. I was hoping they would let it go, honestly, but no, they didn't, man. They were like, no, y'all are going to do something to him, or it is what it is. And they were like, well, we're not going to do nothing to him. I was like, okay. And so I wasn't the one speaking. I was just kind of standing here. I think the guy's name was Rooster, the guy that was there for Texas. And just so happened Rooster wasn't in the rec cage. He was running all this on the outside of the rec cage because he was the groundskeeper or whatever, outside picking up trash. And so we all walk over to him. He's on the other side of the fence. We're talking to him through the fence. He's like, man. And that's when, he called the shot from out there. He's like, man, hit them. If they don't want to do anything about it, then hit them. And so we're walking around. At that moment, that was the first time I ever picked up a knife when I was there. Because one of the guys, when I got to the rec yard, they handed it to me. And I was like, oh, shit. So I know this is serious, right? And as a gang member, I'm not a gang member. As the ABTs, they're gang members. They're armed because I think it's mandatory for them. Isn't it mandatory for them to carry weapons over there?
I believe it is.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're armed. And now I'm armed, and I'm like, man, here we go. They've already said they're not going to do anything. So we're walking around the track out there, and they're kind of doing the same thing, but we're not walking together. They're like way up here, we're way back here, and we're all just talking. And we're like, damn, man, what do we do? You know, and nobody wanted to do it because everybody knew the outcome of what was about to happen. So despite all this tough guy stuff that everybody says, man, nobody wants to do it. We had tough guys in the group, and I wasn't one of them, but there were, and even they didn't. They're like, damn, man, you know, because it's somebody's about to die probably, you know, or you're definitely risking your life. So we ended up walking up to him and we said, hey, we're going to give him one more chance. So we call him over there. Hey, come here. We're talking to him like, look, bro, come on. And long story short, man, they just said no. And we had already agreed if they said no, the minute they said no, that we were going to just start taking off on them. But I skipped the part where the knives came out of play at. So while we're walking around out there, the SIS, which is the special investigation, they had seen, I guess they already know, they can tell the vibe on the yard, everything. They know something's going on, so they call us all over there to the fence. And in my head, I'm thinking like, thank God, they're about to lock us all up and put us up. I was like, man, it's over, thank God. But no, he called us over there, and basically what he said was just keep it clean, no weapons. And so that's when all the weapons came out, because when SIS started walking over to us on the yard, you could see everybody. Everybody was throwing their weapons and stashing them and stuff. And so that's when all the weapons got dispersed. And so then when we talked to SIS, he says that. Well, then that's when we went our way, they went their way. And then that's when we had that final conversation. So that's when we decided to do it, because we knew that they didn't have weapons, or we were pretty sure they didn't have weapons. I'm sure some of them might have had them still, but we saw them drop theirs. So we dropped ours. And then that's when we decided to make the move. We thought that would be the safest move to make. And it turned out it was, man. We were right there. The guard tower was there. Everybody started fighting. I think the ABT guy, his name was Jinx. And Matt took off on him. He punched him. And then I don't even know who I hit. I hit several people. And, you know, we came out on top because we made the first move, you know. And the cops came, the tower, you know, he's up there. He shot down some kind of loud bangs and stuff. And we all go to the shoe, and that was it. But now I've got a target on my back with the ABT for the rest of my time. But it is what it is.
And you get shipped because of that, right?
Yeah, I got shipped.
Where do you go next?
After that, I went to USP Canaan up in Pennsylvania.
How was Canaan? A little more laid back or no?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Canaan was cool. There were still deuces pretty much like, you know, daily maybe, but nothing too crazy. You know, not like Pollock. Pollock was a whole nother ball game, but, you know, Canaan was a lot more laid back. Now, there was still, you know, something going on every day. But again, over here, it was more like as long as you kind of stayed in your lane and you're not an idiot, you're good. So Pollock was not the case. Pollock, it just anything could happen. Like what I got drug into with those guys. I had nothing to do with that, you know? And so there it was. Over here is a lot more reserved. People were, you know, they're trying to make money. They're, you know, and ticketing and football and all that stuff was a big thing. A lot of New York guys, a lot of, you know, East Coast guys are over there. And then you had there were some Black Can guys there. And my cellie was actually he's a Russian mafia guy. My next door neighbor, who is a Italian mobster, his name is Charles Carneglia. He was a hitman for John
Charlie.
Gotti.
I know Charlie very well.
No, Charlie?
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie, man, he's kind of crazy, but he's a good dude, man. So I just hung out with those guys, man. My cellie, he was from Russia. And I still talk to him to this day. He emails me. I send him I do anything I can for him. Send him pictures, money, whatever, you know. So we stay here. I picked one person, and he was my person that I was gonna help out after I came home.
Cool that you do that. So now, how long you been home?
I got home in 2020, and I've been home ever since.
2020, you got your own construction business down there in Texas, doing new buildings, new homes, right?
Yeah. So in 2020, I got out. And I had 3 years of supervised release. Actually, let me tell you about that, man. So I actually violated my supervised release. I got a DWI when I first got out. And they locked me back up for like 3 months. And I went to county jail in Bastrop, Texas. So they said, okay, they gave me a 3-month violation. And I got a DWI parked in a parking lot at my apartment. When I first got out, I'm with my girlfriend. and we were drinking. It wasn't my birthday. And we were drinking. I went down to my truck to get something, and I ended up falling asleep in the driver's seat of my truck in the parking lot of the apartment. And I got woke up at like 5 a.m. by an officer, and he woke me up. It's like, hey, what's going on? The truck wasn't running. The keys were not in the ignition. They were in my pocket, and the dude gave me a DWI. And so I could have beat it, but I ended up just, it is what it is. And they gave me probation. I ended up finishing the probation, and it was over with. And so that was the only hiccup I had. It was just one of those things, wrong place, wrong time, and a bad cop, right? So
now you're living your best life. You own a construction company. I know you got a YouTube channel. You're doing a giveaway on the YouTube channel. Tell the people what your YouTube channel is.
So my YouTube is at Stay Ready 816, and on my YouTube I just do like 3D printing, technology, AI, stuff like that. I just started, man. I've only got a few subscribers, but I am doing a giveaway to kind of generate traffic to the channel. So I'm doing a giveaway on a Creality K1 Max printer, values around $800 to $1,000 depending. I'm also doing a giveaway on a Samsung 32-inch gaming monitor, same value. And your subscribers are welcome to go on there and enter to win. All they have to do is subscribe and comment which item they want to enter for. And I don't care who wins it. So long as you're subscribed and comment, you're good to go. But yeah, as far as the business, so I started a construction business. When I came home, I applied to be a superintendent for a home builder, and they were willing to train me. They trained me, and I ended up opening my own business. And now my business, Coastal Bend General Contracting, we basically supply the labor force to home builders. So you have home builders like Lennar and D.R. Horton and all those big home builders. There's a bunch of smaller home builders also that we supply, but they need labor to build those houses. And so what we are is we're kind of a one-stop shop. So generally those builders, they'll call 20 different guys to build this house. You need a framer, electrician, plumber. Well, we're kind of all of that under one roof. And I designed the business like that because I used to be a superintendent, and I know how much time and that it takes to call 20 different guys to do 20 different things. So I said, man, what if I make a business where you just make one call and that one person can supply all of that for you? And that's kind of what I did, man. And we're doing a lot of government work for the government, and so I'm getting them to pay me back for all those years that they locked me up. And also, I'd like to mention, and if it's okay with you, maybe we can link it in the description. I'm going to end up renovating a house for an elderly couple. And this is my first one that I'm doing, but I'm going to do a GoFundMe. With the GoFundMe money, I'm going to renovate this elderly couple's house. I'm going to post the story on GoFundMe and all that, but this is my first one. If it goes good, I'd like to just start picking elderly people that can't do things for themselves. And I'm going to donate the labor from my business and get the GoFundMe money to finance the material, and then have my guys just go, remodel these people's houses, put air conditioning. You got like this couple that I picked out now. I mean, they don't even have AC. And so we're going to try to go hook them up and do it for free. And I'll put that up on the YouTube too.
That's what's up, man. So listen, before we get ready to go, man, anything you want to say?
Well, all I can say is, man, stay out of trouble. And if you end up there, keep your head down and don't be a dumbass and come home.
Listen, Lawrence, we'll put your links in there. People can check that out. I think what you're doing for the old people is a great, great thing. But anyway, man, tell people if you like what we're doing, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button with respect. Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Until tomorrow, we're out.